everybody. I'm April with Terra Health and Wellness. This is Harlequin, my amazing assistant today. And we are going to talk about the E.V.S. system for the Utah Medical Cannabis Program. What is that, right? We're going to talk about how to go online and apply for a Utah Medical Cannabis card and prepare yourself to see a doctor to discuss those options. So this is my company. Just want to make sure you all know. I have a clinic and we do have QMPs who are available to see patients, but today what we're talking about is an online state system. This is separate from any doctor's office. This is a system that every single patient who registers for a cannabis card must complete in order for their card to come to them via email. Okay? So today, Harlequin, you're going to start an account, is that right? And prepare yourself to see a QMP. Do you know much about the state process? Do you know anything about how the card process goes?
Not really.
Okay.
I've been listening here and there about it, but
Does it seem,
not a lot.
Seem simple, or does it seem a little confusing?
It definitely seems simple.
Okay, good. Well, I think anything that we've never done before can seem a little confusing. So she and I are going to go through the process a little bit. I do want to show you the application process. This is a state approved handout that I'm holding, so this doesn't come from me, this comes from the state. And this is the process to get a card. First, you need to locate a provider that can sign for a card. Not every doctor can sign for a card. They must have gone through training through the state, and they must be what's called a QMP, a qualified medical provider. You can find a qualified medical provider by going onto the state website and finding the Locate a Provider tab, and then you'll look up Salt Lake County, Utah County, whatever your county is, and you'll be able to find some that are on the list. If you're unable to find any there, you can also contact the state directly, because there are a lot of QMPs who chose not to be on the list. So you may find that your provider already is one. So don't feel like you can't call and ask. Nobody's gonna judge you. No one's gonna hang up the phone on you if you're calling and asking who can sign for a marijuana card, okay? It's okay. So once you've located a provider, you're gonna want to make an appointment with them. That might be your primary care if they already are, but if they're not, it will need to be with someone who's registered with the state in order to sign that card. Does that make sense? Okay. The best way to have that conversation with your primary care, in case they might be interested as well, is you could show them the state system or print out a handout like this and see if they might be interested in joining the program. They can also call Terra Health, and we do have, a separate wing in which we could certainly help assist them with understanding the program as well. So just know that that opportunity is there if you want to try to stay with your primary. Okay. All right. Now we're going to move on to step 3. This is the big step. This is where everyone gets a little bit stumped, because that's when you have to go into the online state portal and you can't process without it. Okay? So we're going to look at that from the computer aspect, and then we'll come back to the handout. The second reason it's important that you understand the online portal and the program prior to going to see your QMP is the program itself is not through your QMP. The program is through the Utah State Department of Health. It's the Utah Medical Cannabis Program, and they are in charge of that program, which means that you, a patient, are entering into an agreement with the state about your medical cannabis card. Your QMP is a stop along the way, and they sign for your card, and they should be educating you about the plant, but they are not the ones who control your card. The person and the individuals that you need to talk to about questions for the state would be directly with the state. This is the online state portal, okay? What we're looking at right now is the state website for any patient who might be interested in applying for a card, which would be right here. In order to apply for a card, I always encourage that you go through first and you read through the steps. First, you want to locate a provider. You're going to meet with your provider and create an account. Where it says if you do not already have one, some folks have an account because they've done child support or unemployment and things along that nature. If you have an account already, you do need to use that login, otherwise you cannot create a new one, okay? It doesn't necessarily link all of your benefits and everyone can see everything, but the Utah ID is all ran through the state program. So you should understand that your ID is going to be linked no matter what. Okay? Okay, now we're going to create a Utah ID account. There's 2 steps to that. First, you have to create a username, and then you have to use that username to get into your account and start an application, okay?
Okay.
What you'd want to do is click on this button, and that's going to take you to your Utah ID account. This isn't going to have any information in it yet because we haven't started an account for you. It's also just going to take a little time. There we go. All right. In order to create an account, you'd want to click on this button. If you already have an account and you think you've seen this before, click on Forgot Password, put in your username and or your password and or your email, and try just resetting your password because you're not going to be able to create a new account, okay? If not, then you can call the state and they will help you reset your password, but it'll save you a lot of time. If you know you have an account, you're just not interested in getting the password, you're going to have to, okay? I hear that. So now, what you would want to do is you'd want to go ahead and create an account because you've never had one before. In order to create an account, you must have access to the email that you're going to use. Do you have access to your email currently?
Yes, it's on my phone.
Great. Go ahead and grab your phone. While she does that, we're going to talk a little bit about the 2 steps that are involved for the account creation. In order to set up a user account and to do your application, you have to have your social security number and your state ID. You cannot use an expired ID, and you must have a social security number. Unfortunately, if you do not have one of these 2 things, then you will not be able to participate in the Utah Medical Cannabis program. Go ahead and hit submit. Okay, so she's entered in her email and she's hit submit to create an account. The reason you have to have access to your email is now you need to verify that that's your email so that they can continue on with the state system. It is a state system, and so therefore the securities are a little different, and you can't just bypass certain steps because otherwise it will not let you progress. So now we're just waiting as she verifies her email.
Yes.
Go ahead and click that purple blue button. So she got an email, and there's a big blue button that says verify email, and you just click on that and it will show the state system that that is your email and they can trust it. So now she'll be able to progress forward. What happens is she's getting it sent to her phone where she'll need to put in her first and her last name, her date of birth, and she'll choose a username. We're not going to show you that, but once you've done that, you'll get a confirmation that you're done. She's just choosing a password. So she's now created a username and she entered in her password from the link that was sent to her email. Now that that's been done, she's going to come back and enter that username that she just chose in her phone into the system directly. Meaning it's the same screen you were just in, but now you're actually using the username. If you can't get it to do that, sometimes you need to log completely out, go back in and try again, and it'll let you. Okay, so go ahead and put in your username.
Let me forget the you again.
Okay. Now that she's created her account, when she logs in, it's going to look like this. Yeah, we'll put it over. Now that she's logged into her account and she's used her username, she's going to pull it up and it's going to look like it's all complete. She won't be able to move forward. That's because she has to log completely out of the system. You have to close everything. Go back in. The state system must reset. In other words, it wants to make sure there's no hackers, so now you need to start over by closing down your server. Okay. Go ahead and put your password in again. What's going to happen is it's going to look like a completely different screen.
Let me try to find that again.
This is the state portal. You know you've gone in the right direction when it gives you the 3 options. Patient registration, QMP registration, which you're never going to choose as a patient because that's only for providers, and caregiver registration. You would only choose this if you are not the patient, but you will be helping a patient with their marijuana card or their cannabis card. So that would be what you use to set up a separate account. And we can talk about that at a later date, or you're welcome to contact us and I'll walk you through that. But today we're just going to focus on patients. All right, so now we're moving forward with the patient registration. I'm going to let you do this part separately. So what you're seeing here is the patient's information, the last 4 digits of the social, and the date of birth. You cannot move forward without this information, and that's why it's handy to just have it ahead of time, because it will let you know pretty quickly if you're not going to be able to access the system if you don't have those things. Okay, so she just finished putting in all of her information, and now she's ready to move forward on to the next step. So as you can see, you've registered, but you still need to continue. It's important that you continue on with the application because it's technically not complete. Okay, so go ahead and click here to continue. Perfect.
Did it take? It's being slow. There's a little load guy up there.
Because we're watching it. Now we're coming to a blank application. What you need to do at this point is go into tracking inbox. You're going to go to patient, but just click patient. Do not click new patient for just a moment. We're going to take a gander at the screen. Do you see how there's nothing here? It's because you have not started your application. So if you log in and this is what you see, it's because you still need to continue your application. So you're going to go to new. Leave it right there. All right, this is the patient application screen. And I'm just gonna go over a couple of different sections for you so that you know what you're looking at, okay? This right here is your patient registration ID number. This will be on your card. This is basically your card number. This is what you need to have if you ever get pulled over by the police and they ask you for your patient ID number. This needs to be on that form, or you need to have it so they can access the system. Ideally, keep your card on you or in your phone so that you have it at all times, okay? This will show the state. This shows when it goes into effect, so that's the day that you're issued your card, and this is the day that your card will expire. It's important that you do your renewal prior to the expiration date so the state has time to reissue it, okay? Next, we're looking at the applicant type. Depending on who you are, would be who you choose. So today you would be applying on behalf of yourself. Don't click that yet. But if you're mom and say you're 18 years old, you would be applying on behalf of your child so that you can get the medication for them. This mostly pertains to folks who cannot take their child. So if your child's 19 years old, they can probably just get the card in their name versus mom needing to have it. But if they're 7, then mom needs to have it. So that's one of the big differences for the minor child card, is who needs to actually carry the card. Is the 5-year-old going to the dispensary, or is the 19-year-old going to the dispensary? So just make sure you ask yourself who's going to be responsible for the product. And then you would go through and you'd put your first, last name, your social again, and date of birth. All of this has to match what the DMV has. So whatever your state ID says, it needs to say this. You cannot use a nickname, you cannot shorten your name. If you got married or you changed your address, you'll need to update that with the state system first, okay? As you go down, you're going to see assistance required. That's a very good question. If you can't get through any of this application without assistance, meaning you need someone to do it for you, then you do need to look into getting a caregiver. If you just need someone to explain the user guide or how to just access for the account system, that's one thing, and you can do that through the state system. They have user guides. We can help you. But if you need someone to do it for you, you need to get a caregiver. Okay? And then you're gonna put in your email address and your phone number. This will be the address that they use to contact you. It needs to be the same one that you started your account with. Okay, you can't switch and kind of move it around. Over here, you're going to put what's on your ID, which is why it needs to match over here. If you're applying on behalf of your child, then this information would be your child's, and this information would be yours and what's on your ID. Okay? It will change the way it looks when you do it on behalf of a child. And I'll just show you how that changes. Then it changes the guardian information, but if it's for on behalf of themselves, that will usually just say patient information. Okay, so that's the only difference. You're then gonna go through all of this. Proof of identity. If there's a caregiver, then you would go in and put the workflow event. That's because we're still on the caregiver portal. And then patient acknowledgement says that you have read the information document that is provided by the state, as well as the FBI privacy statement. You can choose to put no, you can choose to put yes, but you still should read the information because in the end, again, it's your application with the state and it's important that you know what you're agreeing to, okay? This part you'll want to see. Okay.
3, 2, 1.
So now that you've gone and you've filled out all of this information, you're going to go to save and submit for certification. Now your application says awaiting certification. This is how you know that your application is ready and you've done your part, but you can't proceed without meeting with a QMP. Once your application says awaiting certification, it means that you are ready, you have done your application correctly, now you're waiting for your QMP to log in on their side and to sign off. That can only happen after they've met with you, they've said that you're appropriate, and they've determined that they will be your QMP. If your primary care physician does not know how to proceed after this step, it's because they're not a QMP. So you either need to help them understand that they can go through the state program and become one, or refer them to a clinic like ours who can assist them with the process and or make sure that we support their patients along the way. Once they've agreed and they've gone online and they have signed off on your application, this will switch to awaiting payment. Awaiting payment means that your doctor has signed off on your card and you're now ready to pay the state $15 fee in order to obtain your card. If your doctor had already gone on and signed, which we know he hasn't, this here would have an option for a $15 payment. Because the option is not there, that is another way to know that your doctor has not signed for his. Because you cannot go past registration must be in awaiting payment. Okay? In order to come back and check if your doctor has signed, you can always come and click on the patient box. It will pull that back up, and this will say awaiting payment. If you're a caregiver or you want to indicate a caregiver, you can do so with the caregiver button. You would put in your caregiver's name, and they would go through that other registration tab that we showed them. Your doctor would put any notes here, say if he feels that you shouldn't have a particular form, if he wants the pharmacist to know anything. You can also see those notes, so you would be able to look there. And then most importantly, there's your patient history. And anything that was purchased in the dispensary, you can see, doctors can see, and the pharmacist can see. But none of this will matter until your doctor has signed. So any of these tabs will not work until your doctor has signed. And then because you're going to do the Compassionate Use Board, we'll look at this tab last. This is the one where I said things just need to be uploaded to them. A lot of folks are scared to do a CUB appeal. They're afraid that they're going to get turned down because they don't qualify or that the CUB process is going to be too difficult. A lot of folks are afraid to try to appeal to the state through the Compassionate Use Board, otherwise known as the CUB appeal. I always encourage folks to not be afraid, but to read about it, to get more information. And you may find that not only do you qualify, but you already have the documentation necessary to apply. And the state will be very appreciative that you were brave enough to step forward and to do that. Okay. In order to upload documents through the CUB, you simply go to New, and either you or your provider can do this. So you don't need to rely on them to provide the documentation that you feel is necessary. You could just click New, and then this would give a patient an option. Say you want them to see an x-ray film, or you want them to see a different document that maybe your provider didn't have from another provider. You can provide that directly to the state and help with your own appeal. So you have control over how your appeal goes, even if your provider doesn't have all of that documentation, okay? So you control some of it too, and you don't have to just wait on them. And then that's it. So that's the process. That's what the online state portal looks like. If at any point in this process you didn't feel like you understood, or you felt like maybe this is a little overwhelming for you, that's okay. You may want to reach out to someone that you care about and someone that you know can assist you with the process, and discuss the option of a caregiver at that point. All right, thank you so much for sitting through this tutorial and getting to know the system with me and with Harlequin. Thank you so much for being here.
Anytime.
You helping patients to see the system really gives them hope that they can do it too. So it's really brave of you also. I also want to say thank you to OG Cannabis Co. for letting me come in here and invade her beautiful space. It is just amazing in here. Definitely come and check out what tools she has. The resources in here are endless. If you're needing to learn how to work with the product once you get your card, if you need to learn how to cook with the product, you want to make soaps, you want to, all of these options, that's definitely why we're here, because we're in a supportive patient environment. So thank you so much, Sarah, for letting us come in. I'm also here with Corey, Utah Vape Guy. You know, this rock star is just here helping patients all over, and he was so gracious enough to come down and make sure that this tutorial got done correctly and with quality so that you guys understand it. So thank you again, Corey, for doing that for me. I really appreciate you, and the patients really appreciate you.